I can't get these memories out of my mind. And some kind of
My name is Billy Holmes. I'm a stutter, and I began to stuttering when I was a child, for as long as my parents can remember. And I don't have any specific recollection of when I began my stutter, but I know that I've had it through most, if not all, of my life. As I went on to the junior high and high school, I do remember having a little bit of a stutter, but I didn't stutter quite as much then. But I also think the reason why I don't recall my stuttering as much is because I probably was doing a very good job of my avoidances, and I was avoiding a lot of situations that would have allowed or that would have made me stutter. And as I went to college, my stuttering began to pick up, and also as I became more and more involved in activities, clubs, etc., where public speaking was more of a norm and necessity, then my stuttering began to increase and get worse as I began to avoid more and more as it became more of a problem in my life. I thought previously that it had an effect in my life, but after I have learned some managing techniques and ways to manage and handle my stutter, I can now reflect back and say, yes, it has affected my life. It has affected my relationships in the past with friends, families, girlfriends, and as I look back now, up until I really started to be proactive in trying to find solutions to my stutter, up until then, I didn't have quite the robust relationships that I have now. So, as I compare, when I got some specific treatment out this last summer, the relationships prior to that, and the relationships afterwards, my relationships are more fruitful now, and I feel that as I meet people for the first time too, I'm more outgoing and I'm more willing to be an active member of the group participation and such. So I feel that my relationship has improved since I have sought out help, and I would have some tough times when I had to speak in front of the classroom, for instance. So I'll talk about the life in the classroom first. And as I went to college, where there was more random calling on students as opposed to just having to voluntarily talk in class, I did struggle at that point. And there were moments throughout the whole class I would think and I would worry about if the professor was going to call on me, if they were going to ask me to give a answer to a question or to analyze a problem. So there would be days in the classroom I sat as far as I could in the back, always sat as far as I could in the back of the class, and just hope and pray that I wouldn't be called on. Also, the worst day was the first day of class, because during the first day of class you'd have to go around and you'd have to say your name, and I would be so stressed out for at least a week before I would start my classes about having to go around the room and to say our names. But I always loved the classes where the professor would just read off the list who was here and would raise their hand. That was such a relief. Also, I'll talk. So I would always avoid my name. I hated having to say Billy Holmes. and my state where I lived, my hometown of Chandler, Arizona, my university I attended, the University of Arizona, my majors, etc. Those were a lot of the word avoidances and fears that I had, and it always came down to words that I knew only had one answer to them. So if there was a word that I could switch out for a different word, then I was okay with it. For instance, for your name, you only have your name. Your name is your name. So when you had to say your name, it was really difficult for me. So this created a lot of frustration for me, and it began to build up, and it was almost like a monster you were feeding. So the more that you avoided and the more that you feared about stuttering was when the stuttering will become more prevalent and more ubiquitous amongst all your daily interactions. So I had a lot of frustration in that sense because I didn't feel that I was able to show people, my friends, etc., who I really was. And as I mentioned earlier, that was a strong limitation on the quality of my relationships that I had. I had a poor attitude about myself. I always felt that if I didn't stutter, then I would be able to do whatever it is that I want to do. And the single factor that was holding me back was my stutter. And as I reflect now, after having gone through a intensive therapy clinic over a summer, that it's not the limiting factor in my life. But at the time, I had felt that that was the thing that was holding me back from being able to achieve whatever it is that I wanted to. So I saw this as a major limiting factor on success, on overall happiness, and a quality lifestyle. As I went through college and as I went through high school, I always had a fear of having to go through an interview. And I would always try to see if there was a way that I could get out of an interview, whether it is trying to proactively look for jobs in which maybe I knew somebody and I could just try to get a job and I have to go through an intensive interview process. And so that also was a fear that I had, and I think that definitely had an effect on my life as well. Now, as I talk in front of you today, I stutter more outwardly than I used to. I used to internally hold my stutter back and would not participate in stuff such as what I'm doing today. So I stutter more, but I have become accepting of my stutter and have been able to minimize my fear and avoidances. And I attribute this a lot to my experiences at the Successful Stuttering Management Program at the Eastern Washington University. So I attended there summer of 2012, and this really began to change my attitude on my stutter. That was probably the biggest thing I took away from it is the acceptance factor, is to be okay with your stutter, to own your stutter, to not blame anybody else for your stutter, and to accept the fact that there is no cure, that I'll have this the rest of my life. So, how I manage my stutter now, and some of the techniques I've learned in this program is, first off, is advertising that I stutter. I have seen during the program and since I've been back in the program, that if I advertise to people, it creates what I call a stutter-friendly environment, where I no longer have the fear to stutter, and the person on the receiving end, who's the listener, is also more understanding. And if I show to them that I'm comfortable with my stutter by maintaining good eye contact and by stuttering through my words and not changing words and rephrasing, that shows a level of comfort on my end too. So that makes the speaking engagement with my listener more comfortable for them as well, because I always feel also as a stutterer, it's our responsibility to also try to educate the people on the other end, but to also do everything that we can to make them feel at ease and to show them that we are comfortable. So it just makes it for a better environment. And also to that as well, I took away the need to challenge myself on a daily basis. I have to continue to push the envelope in moving outside of my comfort zone. If I feel that a particular situation would cause some fear for me to stutter or make me feel uncomfortable about my stuttering, then I would try to put myself in that situation. And that helps to desensitize me from my attitude and my fear of stuttering. So that was a fantastic program. It completely changed my life. And I attribute a lot of my quality of life and happiness to the success of that program. Oftentimes there are clinicians and ways of teaching that will try to teach the clinicians when they're working with their stutterer to help them to get to a point where the stutterer relax. I tell them, just read aloud, or if you sing, or if you just slow down and just really try to go through the sentence slowly, that it will help the stutterer. But I can tell you that it will not help the stutterer. In fact, it will make the stutterer be more self-conscious about their stutter, and will put them in the position where they're subconsciously trying to be fluent. I mean, what you're essentially teaching them and you're telling them is, do this so you can be fluent. However, on the flip side, what you should do is you should help the stutterer to become more accepting of their stutter. You should help the stutterer to eliminate fears, whether it be situational fears, whether it be word fears, and to help them get to a point where they feel comfortable to advertise themselves. There is no cure to stutter. So even though some of the universities and teachers, professors, and people in the field will teach to try to have programs where the stutterer becomes more fluent, you need to have the idea that the stutterer needs to learn to manage their stutter. It will never go away. There is no research out there that shows that there's a way to cure this. So just to work on the acceptance phase that your stutterer understands that they will never be able to cure it, and to help them to feel comfortable with their stutter.